As humanity, we have always turned our gaze to the sky. We focused our telescopes on the farthest galaxies, the red deserts of Mars, and even the event horizons of black holes. We always looked for them up there, among the stars. But perhaps this was our greatest mistake. Perhaps the place we needed to look was not the endless void, but the endless darkness right beneath our feet. The oceans. That massive blue unknown covering 70% of our world, of which we have mapped only 5%. Think about it. We know the surface of the moon better than our own ocean floors. But what if there is something hiding in that darkness, under that immense pressure in depths we can never reach? What if they are not coming because they have been here all along? Welcome to Intrigues History. Today, we are not talking about the sky, but the depths. The Pentagon's most feared file, USOs, Unidentified Submerged Objects, and that ominous silence at the bottom of the ocean. Our story begins with the most famous event in modern UFO history, the USS Nimitz incident of 2004. Most of you know this story through the white, tic-tac shaped object seen by the pilots.
Echo 6-1 Tango Project, over.
Oh, got it! Woohoo!
Roger, there's troubleshooting.
Are you box moving target?
602.
No, I took an auto track. Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, dude. Wow.
But that day, there was a much more terrifying detail mentioned in the pilot's reports and radio communications, yet missed by the media. When Commander David Fravor saw that object, it wasn't in the air. It was hovering just above the water. And according to Fravor's statement, the water in that region of the ocean was boiling. Something massive was moving under the sea, far larger than the flying object on the surface. It was creating frothing and churning the size of a Boeing 737. And then, that white object suddenly shot out from within this underwater anomaly and ascended to the sky at supersonic speed. The massive thing below silently returned to the depths. This is the terrifying technology that the Pentagon and the Navy call transmedium travel in their UAP reports. Think about the laws of physics. Water is approximately 800 times denser than air. An object can travel at 20,000 kilometers per hour in the air. Friction creates heat, but it is manageable. However, the moment that same object hits the water at that speed, it would shatter as if hitting a concrete wall. Even if it didn't shatter, the resulting supercavitation and sonic boom would destroy the craft and everything inside it. But these objects can transition from space to atmosphere and from atmosphere to water without slowing down, without making a splash, and without taking the slightest damage. Their speeds detected on Navy sonars are hundreds of knots underwater, impossible speeds that even our most advanced nuclear torpedoes cannot reach. So, who does this technology belong to? The Russians? The Chinese? Retired American Rear Admiral and oceanographer Tim Gallaudet gave a very clear answer to this question in an interview in 2024. While on duty, Gallaudet was one of the first to watch the Go Fast video on the Navy's secure network. And the very next day, a critical message dropped into his inbox. The subject of the message was Urgent Flight Safety Issue. The content read, "Vehicles that do not belong to us are operating with impunity in our airspace and underwater regions, and we cannot stop them." Gallaudet implied that these objects might have bases on the ocean floor, in massive hollows beneath the continental shelves. This is not just a theory, it was the conclusion of a military analysis. In fact, history is full of sailors encountering such phenomena. In 1492, as Christopher Columbus approached the American continent, he wrote in his logbook, "We saw a massive beam of light rising from the sea toward the sky." Centuries later, during the Cold War, these encounters peaked, especially during the Soviet Union era. Declassified archives of the Russian Navy contain incredible events in files named kvakare, meaning frogs. But the most spine-chilling one occurred in the winter of 1982 in the world's deepest and oldest lake, Lake Baikal. Lake Baikal is a massive body of water with a unique ecosystem, reaching depths of 1,600 meters. During a training exercise, Russian military divers encountered strange beings at a depth of 50 meters. These entities looked human-like, but were nearly 3 meters tall. They wore no scuba tanks or submarine equipment. They had only a tight, silvery suit covering their bodies and spherical, transparent helmets on their heads. The Russian commander ordered the capture of one of these beings. 7 elite military divers attempted to surround them with a giant net. But at that moment, an unidentified type of sonic wave or a force field exploded underwater. All 7 divers were instantly thrown to the surface as if launched by a catapult, disregarding pressure differences. They suffered severe decompression sickness. 3 divers, who could not be placed in a decompression chamber, died a horrific death right there. The others were left disabled for life. The Russian Ministry of Defense kept this incident a state secret for years. Who were those beings, and what were they guarding in the dark depths of Lake Baikal? These events show us this. The UFO phenomenon is not limited to the sky. Perhaps the sky is just a showroom. The real activity, the main base, is down below. Remember the footage leaked from a U.S. Customs and Border Protection aircraft in Aguadilla, Puerto Rico in 2013. In the video, an object flies over the airport, then heads toward the ocean. The moment it touches the water, there is no splash, no deceleration. It enters like a ghost, as if the water wasn't there. Then it splits in two underwater and continues as 2 separate objects. Physicists who analyzed this video said, there is no material on Earth capable of doing this. So why the oceans? If you were an external intelligence or an ancient breakaway civilization that existed on Earth before us, where would you choose to hide? Cities? Mountains? No. You would choose the ocean floors, places no one looks, no one can disturb, possessing immense pressure and filled with geothermal energy sources even more powerful than nuclear energy. The ocean floor is the perfect camouflage. Satellites cannot see it, radars cannot penetrate it. As humanity, we have sent fewer people to the Mariana Trench, the deepest point of the ocean, than we have to the moon. We know that place less than our own backyard. And then there are the sounds. The ocean is never silent, but there are some sounds that cannot be explained by biology. In 1997, NOAA recorded an ultra-low frequency sound in the depths of the Pacific Ocean. They called it the Bloop. This sound was so powerful that it was heard simultaneously by sensors 5,000 kilometers apart. Scientists first thought it was a giant whale. But the problem was, an animal large enough to produce a sound this powerful could not biologically exist on Earth. It had to be something many times larger than a blue whale. Later, it was claimed to be an ice quake, and the file was closed. But sonar operators who listened to that sound said it felt organic, yet also rhythmic. What if this wasn't an animal, but the sound of a massive underwater machine powering up? What if an industrial complex the size of a continent is waking up on the ocean floor? The USO theory completely changes the 2027 and invasion scenarios. What if they are not coming from space? What if they have been living in those massive cave systems at the bottom of our oceans, around those geothermal vents, for thousands, perhaps millions of years? In this case, the word invasion becomes meaningless, because they are not the invaders, we are. We are just the noisy, polluting tenants living on the surface. The landlord lives downstairs, in the dark, quietly, and has started to get annoyed by the noise from upstairs. This is the most terrifying scenario emphasized by Tim Gallaudet and other whistleblowers. Our oceans are dying, warming, and acidifying. Everything we do on the surface affects the depths. Perhaps the reason for the increasing UFO and USO activities in recent years is not an exploration mission, but a warning patrol. Maybe our nuclear submarines, sonar tests, and deep-sea mining have threatened their habitats, and now they are preparing to come out of that dark zone and say, "Stop." Let's look at the frightening dimension of the technology, the kinetic weapon potential. Imagine an object launched from the bottom of the ocean, traveling 10 times faster than sound. This object doesn't even need to carry a nuclear warhead. With just its kinetic energy, its speed and mass, it can wipe a city off the map. And all our defense systems, missiles, radars, domes are designed for attacks coming from the sky. No army on Earth has a defense against the threat launching vertically from the ocean floor and reaching space in seconds. Zero. This is the reality that keeps the Pentagon awake at night. An unknown power might be dominating us from our most vulnerable point, from our own waters. One of the most interesting details I encountered while researching this topic is the concept of shapeshifters. In USO reports, objects are sometimes described as classic disks, sometimes cigars, and sometimes as beams of light changing shape underwater. Could the light Christopher Columbus saw be the same light Navy pilots see today? In the middle of the Pacific Ocean, where there are no ships or land, massive lights rising from underwater at night, illuminating the sky like daytime. Pilots call these deep lights. And believe me, seeing a massive light rising from the pitch black water beneath you in the middle of the ocean is the most traumatic moment a pilot can experience. In conclusion, the USO file reminds us of this. We think we are the masters of this planet. We named every place on our maps, planted flags, drew borders, but we don't know what lies in that blue part of the map, in that massive void. Perhaps the legend of Atlantis is not just a fairy tale. Perhaps when Plato spoke of an advanced civilization that sank into the water in a single night, he wasn't describing their destruction, but their relocation. Maybe they sank, adapted, and developed a technology there that commands pressure and darkness. Now, the next time you visit a beach or look at the horizon on a ship voyage, think about this. Beneath that calm blue surface, in depths where even light cannot reach, giant eyes or advanced sensors might be looking up, looking at us. As Tim Gallaudet said, they are here, and the ocean is their playground. We are just children building sandcastles on the shore, and perhaps the waves have started to rise. The year 2027 is approaching. We expect something from the sky. But perhaps that great contact will not begin with a signal from the heavens, but from the darkest trench of the ocean. And when that signal comes, we will have nowhere to run, because the lands are just small islands compared to the ocean. As Intrigue's history, we will continue to open the files. If we have triggered your thalassophobia, that is a good sign, because fear is the first step of the survival instinct. Stay tuned, because the secrets beneath the surface are much darker than those above.